that it goes in that location. Make sure that the ignition wire and the other grounding wire, it goes up, okay? Not down, it goes up these wires towards the spark plug eventually, okay guys? That's where it's gonna end up. All right, so I'm gonna take my 2 bolts and I'm gonna thread them in, and then I have to space it. You notice how the hole in the ignition coil is elongated, okay? It's not a round hole, it's an oval hole, and that's how we can adjust it. We can push them closer to the flywheel or pull it further away. Just going to snug this down here with light pressure so I can still move it back and forth. Okay. So I can still move this in and out, okay? And that's what I want. Okay, so I'm going to pull it back. I'm going to take my feeler gauge, I'm going to push it in. I'm going to double check my bottom size. Push that in for the bottom one. I'm going to snug it down just lightly so it doesn't move. Very light pressure. I'm going to do that, pull the top one out. Push it in. I'm holding it in there while I snug it down, light pressure. I'm going to double check the bottom again. And it should be a light drag for it to fit in. It should be tight to go in. Okay, all right, they're both good. So now I'm going to go ahead and tighten that down. So I'm using my nut driver. Have your teacher check this. Make sure that the specification, that the gapping is perfect, okay? Same thing with the torque on the flywheel. Make sure your teacher checks that before you put anything else on. All right, so that part's done. Next, what we're going to do, boys and girls, is we're going to install our front cover, okay? So we're going to be careful of this wiring here. We don't want that to get bound up into anything. Okay, that front cover goes like so. And I'm just doing a visual. Alright, so you see I got this bolt up here. I got this bolt up here. And I'm looking at the bolts of the same size. And then I got my bottom bolts for my fan shrouds that I had installed already, so I'm going to remove them again. And that belongs to this as well. It holds this in place. So I'm going to remove those. Same size bolts. Again, it's the same size bolt. Now, some engines, guys, are a little bit different. You might have a different bolt in the bottom, you might have a different bolt in the top. So they might be slightly different. You got to make sure you put the same bolts in the same holes over again. Otherwise, you're going to be forcing them in, and it's going to cause some damage. Okay? So I'm going to hold that in place like so. I'm going to make sure this mechanism here lines up with the mechanism there. Might give me a little trouble initially, but if you rotate things, it'll go in. I can feel it, move it a little bit. So I'm going to take that nut and that bolt, put it on my nut driver. Just move that hole. Make sure all the bolts go in smoothly with very little effort. I shouldn't have to be forcing anything in. There's very little effort to thread this bolt in here. And I'm not going to tighten this one in because the other ones are still out. So I'm going to leave that loose, okay? I'm going to take the next one. Line that up. Again, very little effort for that to go in properly. And I'm not going to tighten it in until all of them are in. Right at the bottom one here. Okay. Again, I'm not tightening that up all the way. Make sure my wires are still loose. They're not binding in any way. There's nothing hitting. Okay, nothing being pinched. Take that little bolt there and thread that in. Once that's all in, and I've made sure that nothing's binding, nothing's in its way, this is moving freely, then I can go ahead and tighten these bolts in a crisscross pattern. Snug them down with my nut driver.